Whether you're buying or selling in northern New Jersey, the market is changing fast. Pricing, inventory, and equity are all shifting. So here's how to stay ahead and win. Hi, I'm Chris Sapienza, and I've been helping both buyers and sellers in northern New Jersey navigate the dynamic real estate market for years. And in this video today, I'm going to talk about the 2025 market. So whether you're a buyer trying to make sense of rising prices or a seller wondering if now is the right time, you're going to learn tips to have a solid plan and the key to success in the 2025 market.
There's so many different types of buyers out there, right? Sure. And the one thing is, you love when you have the initial phone conversation, the person's ready to go, they submit the application, they find something for 6 months, but at least they know, right? Then you have the client that is like, no, listen, I know I make enough money, I know that, everything's good. But then when it comes time, they said, oh, I saw this house over the weekend, best and final is due Monday at 12 p.m., right? You can make the process so much easier on yourself, by devoting the application for the pre-approval takes 10 minutes, right? There's no hard credit inquiries, there's no cost, right? You put yourself in such a better situation. I mean, even from credit perspective, right? Going from a credit score of 700 to 760, which, is very attainable, right? If you get ahead of it faster, right? And these are the conversations that we have when we do a soft credit check. I see, okay, these are your credit scores. These are where your scores can go up to. That may save you 0.3% on your rate, right? And just because, we didn't have the additional, 20 days to have this conversation, right? You now need to assume, the higher rate because, you didn't put your best foot forward when we had our initial conversation, 3 weeks ago.
Another factor of a great loan officer, what you just touched on, taking that moment to sort of look today to say, okay, if you, Mr. or Mrs. Homebuyer, make these certain adjustments or pay a certain balance down on a certain card, like the difference that will make in your credit score and then the difference that will translate to into your mortgage rate. I think just again, we've had a great working relationship, and I think for anybody hopefully watching this, they're picking up on how considerate you are, and I think more importantly knowledgeable and are willing to take that time to do that. And you said something before about, and I see it all the time, a buyer will go out over the weekend, they walk into the home of their dreams, but they didn't take the time to do the pre-approval, and again, they're just not able to act fast. So yes. I think the thing I would just encourage, and please weigh in on this, when I talk to a lot of folks, they're very hesitant sometimes about pre-approval just because the connotation of credit score. And you can have a credit score kind of all over the board. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, as low as like 625, clearly if you're in the 800s, but there's a wide range. And I think just knowing that, one, it is okay to have that call, two, nothing bad happens, and three, if they're talking to a loan officer like you, even if they're not at a point where they may be ideally ready, you're going to help them understand what will make them ideally ready. So again, that when that is done, they have the ability to act quickly and they understand, you know what I mean? And you've made a much better financial picture for them, period.
Yeah. So, that's a really great point, right? Because sometimes people are actually afraid to make the jump because of the fear of denial, right? Yeah. I think that's a fear that everybody has in all walks of life, right? The lowest credit score I've ever closed a loan is 502. Right?
Low.
So the lowest, technically the lowest credit score that you could close with FHA is 500, right? You need 10% down if your credit score is less than 580, right? But you can do it down to 502 was the lowest I ever did, right? And I can't tell you, probably for the first 5 years of my loan officer career was working predominantly with self-employed borrowers, so understanding tax returns, identifying alternative documentation loans, right? And low credit score borrowers, whether that was because they went through financial hardship, bankruptcies, foreclosures, right? There's a solution. There's a way out. You just need to be educated on what you need to do, and you need to lay a roadmap for what you need to do to get there. And it doesn't take months for us to do that, right? It takes listening, providing documents, giving us a full picture for what we need to do to advise you. Because at the end of the day, that's really what we are. We're advisors that implement a solution to get you to a goal.
Yeah, and I think you touched on that sort of fear of denial. Like, there's really nothing to be afraid of. The worst thing that's going to happen from a pre-approval call is you're going to get a roadmap to walk away with, that if you follow, it will bring you to a point of being prepared and being ready. But in many cases, to your point, someone is already able to qualify. We're just able to make it better. And then, for the folks that are walking in with a very good financial picture, we can move right into exploring options and finding the best program for them.
Absolutely.
So one last topic here, and it's I saved it for the end, but it is, I think, probably as important as everything else. Just from your perspective, as we're coming into 2025, knowing what we know about lack of inventory, homes continuing to appreciate, if you were going to make an early prediction for the year, what are you sort of seeing, or what do you anticipate the market will be like this year from a mortgage and a housing perspective?
Yeah. So, I really do anticipate that inventory is going to continue to be squeezed. North Jersey, there's just every possible square foot that somebody can build on, they're building on, right? And even the houses that are in terrible shape are going for $800,000, right? And so what does that say about your investment, right? The reality is that rates are going to improve over time, right? This is not where they're going to be forever, right? The value of homes, if you go back to the 80s to where they are now, everything has this trajectory, right? There may be some peaks and valleys in between then, but, just the cost of living goes up, the cost of real estate goes up. My honest projection is that we're going to probably see, a 4 to 7% increase in real estate values here in New Jersey. And I don't anticipate, listen, I did a loan for one of my best friends, closed in February of 23 in Hillsdale, $740,000 purchase price. His rate was 7.625, right? Because that was the highest. February of 23 was the highest I ever saw them, like over 8. But, we got him a rate at 7.625. We went to refinance in September. I got him a rate of 5.875. We got an appraisal waiver at 8.10. So that means in a year, right, his property appreciated at 10%. He didn't have to pay for an appraisal. He didn't have to, they waived PMI, right? He ended up saving $600 a month, right?
Huge.
So
it's the house.
And now he has the house, they are happier than ever. So, try to envision that, while making sure that your price point, that your monthly payment is within what you can afford now. But, know that it will get better. It's just a matter of the numbers.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think the last thing I would really just sort of emphasize is that the sooner you are able to buy, the sooner you start earning equity. We're talking a lot about home prices increasing and appreciation, and I just want to sort of pause for a moment, because I think this year in particular, it is that ability to capture that equity gain that is really going to become a much more talked about element in this whole process. We've been focused on rates, we've been focused on the economy, we've been focused on supply and demand and home prices, but the part that gets a little lost here is that, yes, as home prices are going up, affordability really becomes a factor, but if you are able to buy in, equity now really becomes a big play. And to your point, your friend in Hillsdale, in a year, picked up, it sounded like, about $70,000 in equity. So I can't think of another investment product out there really where you're going to see that kind of return year over year. And because we're in the supply and demand kind of imbalance that we've been in really since COVID, that equity number is really, I think, a factor that folks have to look at. you may be stretched a little bit on that monthly payment, but if in a year from now you have $100,000 worth of equity that you didn't have before, it is probably, and again, real estate has always been such a great financial vehicle for building wealth, but I think now more than ever, it is, yes, frustrating to see what's happening with home prices to buy in, but making that effort to buy in and really securing that property and then being able to take advantage of the equity, that's really what I hope to see more conversation about this year. Yeah, because it is what I think is the lost factor. We're getting tied up in the costs and this going up and that going up, but the equity and the wealth building that is happening, especially in the northern New Jersey market, is, I mean, unlike anywhere else in the country.
Yeah, and when you look at it from an asset perspective, right? You look at a stock, right? That may appreciate in value. You actually don't have any use for it, right? You know, I mean, a car, worst investment you could ever make.
Right, you drive it off the lot.
Yeah, I mean, the house is, you have your best days, your worst days, family gathering. You know, there's a lot that comes with, you know, with real estate, especially when it's owner occupied. You know, it's so much more than just an investment, but it's the most, in most cases, it's the most rewarding investment that you make as well.
Well, Jess, I appreciate your time this morning, and I hope if you've been watching and listening to this video, this has helped open your eyes and educate you on a few, if not a few, many things to help you understand getting into the housing market, especially in northern New Jersey. We're going to put Jess's information up in the comments, so please, if you're thinking about getting a pre-approval or just want to talk to someone and understand what your options are, he is a phenomenal resource, and as you heard today, a wealth of information. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please check out the other videos in our series, and if you'd like to, you can always DM, message, or schedule a strategy session with any of our agents to talk more about this. So, Jess, thanks again. I'm sure we'll be hearing from you guys.
Thanks for watching. I want to make sure that you feel confident and understand how choosing the right home, the best mortgage, and a great team of professionals is really the key that you need to win in today's real estate market. So be sure to watch more of our videos for expert tips, or schedule a free strategy session with an agent on our team to get started exploring the best plan for you today. Talk to you soon.